John here with Ripewave Audio and back a fifth time with Sony's flagship $3,200 AV receiver, the STR-AZ7000ES. And this time we are going to take a look at 360 reality audio that this unit supports. And you might remember that we covered the 360 spatial sound mapping that this is capable of. But those two things are different, and we're going to explain how they are different. And if you've been following this series, the first video we did an overview of this receiver and how it compares with its peers, and then we unboxed it. And the second video, we did our initial setup and configuration and calibration with D.C.A.C 9 and use of the various technologies that can get applied to it. In the third video, we got into the user experience. And for the fourth video, we did a sound comparison against all the processors and receivers that we have reviewed to date in-house. And this one fared pretty good, but it wasn't perfect. But we decided to do this video because we got a card in with this receiver, if you remember from the first video, on 360 reality audio. And I don't have prior experience with this. And frankly, I didn't really know much about this audio technology. There hasn't been a lot of chatter out there on YouTube, on reviews, and I thought it was worth talking about because this is something that Sony is promoting and has been for a few years. So what is this? When you compare it against the 360 spatial sound mapping, we realize that this is different. 360 reality audio is an audio format. Now, a lot of people say, wait, it's competing against DTSX and Atmos and Aural 3D. Partially, but this is only focusing on audio. But Atmos has really become a format in itself just for audio sources, as I listen to it all the time through Apple Music. So I do think it is competing with those formats, and we even find Aural 3D music out there. So it is competing, but this is just an audio format. But what is a 360 spatial sound mapping? Well, it's not an audio format. I see it more as channel rendering. So the format determines where these objects or what channels are being used for the content. And that gets decoded in usually its native format. But then the spatial mapping comes in and determines how to utilize the speakers that you have in your system and how those map out. And if you don't have your speakers in the ideal position, they will virtually align those. And if you don't even have something like rear surrounds or height speakers, it will simulate them. And it will make the sound stage even wider. So two different things. 360 reality audio is a format that gets decoded, and the 360 spatial sound mapping takes that decoding, whether it's from 360 reality audio or from something else, and determines how to assign it to the speakers that you have in your room. So with that out of the way, what is 360 reality audio? Now, a lot of times you see this advertised really with somebody with headphones on and say, wow, it's all around my head. It's not just left and right. And yes, this is what it's trying to do. But we see a lot of the advertisements all around two-channel headphone use. One neat thing that they've done with the headphones is they have this way to track your head motion. And should you turn your head to the left or to the right, it will turn the sound with it. Just like in real life, where if you turn to the left, then you're perceiving the sound different. So this, I think, is kind of neat. I haven't tried it myself, but that head tracking feature, something I'm interested in seeing what it's all about. So how does it work with other speakers? And I got this from their website. You know, if you're not using headphones, can you use normal speakers? Now, the first image you get on their website is not a home theater system, but they're showing it with a sound bar, or they're showing it with an Amazon Echo type device as a speaker. I said, well, that's to me not multi-channel or multi-speaker layouts. That is, a sound bar that's simulating multiple speakers, sort of like the headphones is simulating multiple speakers. They also show the different types of devices and streaming services that support this. So Amazon Music supports it, nugs.net, Tidal, I think one more that they don't have listed here, all support it, but not Apple Music and not a few other popular streaming services. But they show you can use it with the sound bar, streaming from your phones, you're casting it using Chromecast. They're showing the Amazon Fire TV Cube that can work with it. So they're showing a variety of ways of doing it. But this, I think, is a lot of the mass market appeal, where it's just running from your phone and going to simple devices that you might have, like an Amazon Echo, like your headphones. And here's a list of everything that is supporting it today. And notice that in this list are receivers, not just the ones from Sony, not just the new ones from Sony, but Denon and Marantz. And of course, the Macintosh MX123 is derived from Marantz and Denon. So of course, it will get it too. Now, it's supporting it through an HDMI connection, not just a casting connection, whether that is a Chromecast or it is the Apple equivalent, which is the AirPlay, through Bluetooth in most cases, doing that. So I'll have to try it. I have the Cinema 50 here. I'll have to try it with the Cinema 50 that says it, and it's supporting it through HDMI. So that will be an interesting one to try out. So they show this evolution where you had stereo, and then you had surround sound all at ear level. And then we got into immersive 3D surround, the Atmos, the DTSX, the Aural 3D. And then they're saying now 360 reality audio is somehow more spherical, more enveloping than even those others. But what is it doing? So we compare it to Atmos, which I think is most people can compare against that, where you have ear level speakers, typically around 7, sometimes less. You have height speakers. 4 is kind of the sweet spot. Some people do it with 2, some people do it with 3, some people do it with more. But this example of a 7.1.4 using 12 channels is pretty common, and it's close to what we have here. We have 2 subwoofers in our situation. But with 360 reality audio, they do something a little different. First, you'll notice they're putting in additional center channels. So in the height speakers, they've got a center height similar to what Aural 3D allows for. But they also introduce a floor level. So floor level is not just for subwoofers anymore. They've got 3 front speakers, a left, a right, and a center at floor level. They're not showing a rear surround. So this makes a total of 13. So where you're losing rear surrounds, you're gaining a center height and a floor height speaker. This is how the angles work out from Sony's with its 360, if you're going to do that setup. So essentially, the front, left, and right are 30 degrees from center, which is pretty close to what you see with Dolby. And the surrounds are 110 degrees. The uppers are 30 degrees. And the lower ones are 20 degrees down. And this is a whole new concept, everything in the blue. Now, if we compare this directly against Dolby Atmos, we see that the 30-degree angle for the front speakers is in range for Dolby, which specifies between 22 and 30. And the side surrounds that are 110 degrees with reality audio matches the maximum angle for Dolby Atmos side surrounds at 110, with no rear surrounds in this case. Now, if we look at the other plane here, going 30 degrees up, We can see that Dolby Atmos, for its heights, has a minimum angle of 30 degrees. So that is aligned there. Of course, there's a little more flexibility with the Atmos. And of course, the lower being 20 degrees is something that Atmos doesn't even define. I'm wondering if that's something that Dolby will introduce in the future, because they're always looking to expand. And it's almost been 10 years since Dolby Atmos was introduced. We'll see. So when you look in the manual for this Sony processor, or the 5000 or the 3000, you might see an image like this. This one was from the 7000 manual. It shows up to 13 speakers can be used. Now, this image is showing, I think, around 32 speakers. So obviously you can't configure all these at once, but these are the options for placing up to 13 on the 7000, 11 with the 5000, or 9 with the 3000. So naturally, if you're doing the 360 in its full capability, the 3000 or the 5000 will fall short. So how do you connect this up? So you configured the receiver in a way that's very similar to a Dolby Atmos layout until you get to what you're going to do with the surround back assign. When you're at that position, instead of putting it to surround back, you would assign this to front bottom, the 360RA, 360 Reality Audio Reference. So when you do that, it's going to leverage the surround back channels. Of course, now I'm wondering, how is it getting the other center channels? We're going to show you. So when you pull this up on the speaker pattern, it's going to show it as a 5.1.5.3. So the 5.1.5 is what you would normally equate to a Dolby layout. 5 ear level, 1 subwoofer, and 5 on the ceiling. The .3 are the 3 on the floor. So it's picking the 3 floor channels and putting it as a new set of numbers at the end. On the speaker connection guide, everything again is just front, left, and right, the center, the surround, left and right, the top, front, left, and right are all just wired as you normally would. But the top center, this will go to height 3 right on the back of your receiver, whether you're using the amplifiers or you're using the pre-outs. The bottom front left, and so this is the sitting below your television on the floor on the left, this will get assigned to surround back left. The bottom center will get assigned to height 3 left. And the bottom front right speaker will be assigned to surround back right. So with all those configured, you're now ready to enjoy 360 Reality Audio at its fullest. The problem is I don't have an extra 3 speakers lying around and an extra 3 channels of amplification. So I'm not at this current stage going to be able to try out those bottom speakers and see how much of a difference they make. Something for the future. Now we're all set up, ready to go. Now you could just leave everything in your normal Dolby Atmos position, because remember, the Sony technology is going to do speaker mapping for you and simulate what you don't have. So we'll see how that works. To get this going, I was given a promo code here, and on the back of this you can go into the 2D barcode. It brings up the web page and it can help you get some free subscriptions there. And I'll use the 2D barcode and I'll show you what they'll bring up for an offer on this. So we select our language, select our country. We have some service terms in here that we have to agree to, so we'll accept those. And once we do, we'll see these offers. And it says that I have a choice of 4 months free of Amazon Unlimited, 1 month free of nugs.net, which I don't have a lot of familiarity with, but I understand they do some streaming of concerts and things like that. And something called Peer Tracks, which wasn't listed on the Sony website, but you could get 3 months free of that. So if you know something about Peer Tracks, you can let me know. I don't know anything about them. But considering I already have Amazon Music Unlimited, I don't need that. And what I really wanted was Tidal, which Tidal has some of these 360 reality audio uh, content on that, but they don't give a free subscription trial period for that. So I think I'm just going to go back to my normal use of Amazon. So if you bring up the Music Center from Sony, so Music Center is available for Android and for Apple devices. So they're always pushing, it seems, the Chromecast, but I don't use that, so I'm going to hit skip. Then it's giving you the 360 reality offer, which we already looked at, so we're just going to say later. And now we can connect up to the 7000 ES. And what we want to do here is access Amazon Music. Now there's two different ways we can connect on this. We can connect using the AirPlay through Ethernet, through Wi-Fi, or we could connect through Bluetooth. The problem is that I found there's an issue using the Wi-Fi or Ethernet connection through AirPlay and using Amazon Music. Amazon Music, it doesn't appear, but it comes up with the cover art, but I can't hear anything that comes out. So I think there's some flaw. I've read on the forums that this is a known item. So I have to connect through Bluetooth, which is not my preferred way, but here we go, right? So I'll select Amazon Music. It jumps over to your Amazon Music app, and we can go search for content from there. And what we'll do is we'll do a find, and you can just simply type in 360 reality and see what it comes up with. It actually works better under, so I just typed in 360 reality audio songs, and it will list some play sets. They do have a best of 360 reality audio, although I find the 360 best of tends to have more pop and urban type music, which I don't listen to as often. And but there's some playlist in here, community playlists, and then there's some songs in here, So and some albums that you can look for. I also looked on at Steve Hoffman's site, and there's people that are more in tune with spatial audio, and they give some recommendations on which albums would sound better. So they were picking out some jazz like from Dave Brubeck or Miles Davis, and they also mentioned a few other ones. But yeah, that might be another way to find it. I do find searching for 360 audio doesn't produce too much within the Amazon app. I do find that Apple Music, the search functions are a little better, at least for what I usually try to bring up. But I can bring up anything like that's in here. And I actually was listening to the Pink Floyd here. And as you're playing with this, once you start playing, it will tell you the format is 360 reality audio at the bottom. At bottom of the progress indicator. So if I select that, it's giving you a choice of a 360 playback or a stereo playback. So if I go to stereo, it's just going to change it over to 2-channel at 2496 kilohertz, going to my iOS device, which is going to bring it down to 44.1, and then out through AirPlay as 16-bit. Now, I'm going to leave it on 360. And as this is playing, I'm going to make sure it is cast to the right device. It's saying it is connected via AirPlay here. If I was to disconnect this, I would see a list of all my devices. See, the Cinema 50 is in there, so I could try that one as well. But yes, it can be to my Apple TV. And sometimes I find to do the Bluetooth, I'm actually have to go into Bluetooth and connect it that way, and then hit play. Now to bring in the Bluetooth, what I do is I hit the others button on the remote. There isn't a Bluetooth button, so I keep pushing the others until the Bluetooth shows up. And here is what we get displayed on the screen. It's saying it's in 360 spatial mapping. If I hit the display button on the remote, nothing happens. This is all you'll get for display, and it doesn't work any further than that. I can turn on 360 spatial mapping, and I can turn it off, so that is an option there. I do not get cover art if I'm going through Bluetooth. I do if I go through the normal AirPlay. So that's one thing you lose. So one case I get the cover art but no sound, and the other case I get the sound but no cover art. Well, I'll take the sound over the cover art. But this isn't perfect on the experience here. I don't know if your experiences are any better than what I'm seeing. Have you had better luck with Tidal versus using Amazon Music? Amazon Music used to be one of my preferred streaming options, but in the last couple of years, I've been doing all Apple Music. I don't know if it's worth it to go to Tidal because that's more expensive than the Apple Music route, and I seem to be happy with the current there. But if there's some extra things I'm missing out on, maybe I'll make the jump. So again, if you have some feedback, that would be really good for me. So what have I heard as a result of this? Now, what I was expecting to hear, because this is all object-based, I expected to hear, depending on the source, particularly something like a Pink Floyd, where things moved through the room. And it is capable. This technology is capable to have motion with these objects. I'm noticing pretty static positioning. When I use my ABC switcher and I turn off and isolate and just listen to one of the height channels, or just listen to the side surrounds, or just listen to the fronts, I'm hearing, I think, the same content just played at different levels, maybe at different levels of delay. It almost sounds like going back to my original Sony with the hall effects and the church effects, and where you can it's really the same signal, but it's just more of an echo out there. Well, it's much better than that. I mean, you are getting the spacious type feeling. It does sound better for the most part, although some people report that sometimes the vocals sound a little more distant coming back when you go use reality audio versus the normal mix for that album that they might be familiar with. So it's worth kind of playing with it if you have this. I don't think this is necessarily a reason to go and run out and get the 7000 ES, but if you have it because you've liked the other features, such as the speaker mapping, such as the 360 spatial sound mapping, then this comes along with it. And if you encountered a track, there's only like 1,000 plus tracks available, from what I understand. There isn't a huge library right now. And we were talking about the general library of some of these major streaming services being in the millions of songs. And there's a lot of Atmos tracks coming out. That seems where the bulk is. Atmos seemed to have won the audio format battle here. And while Sony may have done some great things with this, I think they're falling short on the adoption. And I think they might be falling short on how these are actually mixed. Because if you're not building in a little more excitement where you're hearing some different instruments or different sounds through different channels than you would with a normal 2-channel mix, to me, that's not as exciting, albeit I do like the fact that you're leveraging the speakers you have to give it a more spacious, a more immersive sound. I just think it could be a little more exciting if mixed properly. I don't think it's a technology limit. So what are your thoughts? Is 360 reality audio something you're interested in? How's your experience with it been good? What are your thoughts? That feedback would be useful to this channel. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to take your involvement to the next level, we have our Patreon channel at www.patreon.com/Ripewave. And you can always do a one-time donation. A lot of you are doing that, and that's really helpful to me. $1, $2, anything helps. I mean, if all of you watch this, donate $1, we'll have more success with this channel. We'll be able to bring in more equipment. I self-finance all this that I bring in. I don't have manufacturers just sending me all these receivers and processors. So with that, I will say one thing you can always do is hit that bell notification so you're informed when the next video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.